From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello everyone, welcome to OpenLine. I am Ben Hall. Good show tonight. We are talking about basically protecting people from discrimination when they rent or when they buy a home. How big of a problem is that in Tennessee? Is this a problem you have encountered? We certainly want to hear from you. We'll give you a chance to call in here in a moment. Happy to have with us Donna Duarte, Director of Civil Rights Compliance with THDA. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And so that's THDA, your mission is basically what I described, right?
Our mission is to provide opportunities for safe, sound, and affordable housing in Tennessee. And we do have a mortgage program. We have several mortgage programs, but we have a mortgage program. We are not the direct face that the customers talk to. They talk to banks and mortgage lenders, but we purchase the mortgages that are issued. We buy those mortgages, and so we have a real interest in making sure that the banks and the mortgage lenders operate properly in a fair housing manner, so to speak.
That they treat people fairly.
Right.
That there is not discrimination.
Right.
When it comes to mortgages.
Right.
And then, of course, if you're renting a home, that you are not discriminated against.
That's exactly right. We believe that fair housing works for everyone when there are opportunities and openness in communities. So we support fair housing and the elimination of unnecessary barriers to housing for all Tennesseans.
And how big of a problem is it? I mean, if you told me, all right, you were created in, during the civil rights era, it was a huge problem then, how big of a problem now?
Fair housing doesn't exactly have the same problems that we had in 1968 when the Civil Rights Act was signed. The problems that we have now are more along the lines of invisible barriers, so to speak. It's not like I don't rent to a particular class, but it's more complicated. Like, I don't understand you, you don't speak clear English, and because of that, I can't rent to you. Mm-hmm. It's more situations like that. Or another example is when someone has a disability and they use a wheelchair to eliminate their disability. They go to rent an apartment that has steps to the entrance, and they're unable to put a ramp to provide access to get the wheelchair into the unit. And that's what fair housing tries to eliminate, those types of barriers. And we do it through education.
And so if someone feels they are discriminated against, what should they do? Do they contact you and there's a complaint and an investigation, or how does that work?
Now, THDA is not an enforcement agency. We have 3 enforcement agencies in the state, one of which is the Tennessee Human Rights Commission. The Tennessee Human Rights Commission enforces not only fair housing, but the Tennessee Human Rights Act and the Disability Act here in Tennessee. You can also contact the Tennessee Fair Housing Council here in Nashville and the West Tennessee Legal Services. They will investigate and support on behalf of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, who obviously is the largest enforcer of fair housing.
So you don't enforce, but what do you do? You investigate, or you don't investigate either?
We don't even investigate. We are an education arm.
Okay. So you educate.
Yeah. I spend my time. THDA's found through some studies that we've done that lack of knowledge about fair housing is the largest impediment to housing. And so I spend a lot of my time keeping the fair housing conversation going at THDA and throughout the state. Whenever we have an opportunity to hold workshops or participate in workshops, training events, we'll talk about our housing programs and a little bit about fair housing.
So we probably have a lot of people who rent. That's a big area for you all, right? Renting.
Renting.
What are some of the big barriers that you're seeing? And when it comes to, I guess, let's take it from the tenant side. What are some of the barriers you're seeing now as far as, I guess, discrimination, unfair practices against tenants?
Really, most of the ones that we see, again, are related to people misunderstanding, people that are protected by the Fair Housing Act, by the color of their skin, their race, their religion, their sex, their national origin, disability status, familial status, that's families with children, and in our state creed. Those are the protected classes, and whenever a barrier is created that keeps one of those protected classes from the ability to rent, purchase, or finance housing, then that's a violation of fair housing. To the extent, again, that it's just outright where someone would say, I just don't rent to this particular class of individuals, we don't see that as much, but we see the hidden, the more subtle fair housing violations, where depending on if you answer a Craigslist ad or something like that and you come to a landlord's door, they will say the apartment might not be available for rent anymore, depending on their bias.
What are the rules there if you're, now let's shift to if you're a landlord. The first person to look at your place who puts down a deposit, I mean, do you have to rent to them? Or what if you say, okay, my place, everybody can come look at it on Saturday, and then, you know, I'll pick the person I like the most?
Well, what we would hope is when you're picking the person that you like the most, that you're not creating those barriers against the protected classes. Like I said, color, race, sex, national origin, religion, disability, sex, familial status. We would hope that you are opening the doors to everyone, that you allow everyone the opportunity to look at your apartment and to qualify based on their ability to pay and live at your unit as a landlord.
How could you prove it was done any other way? That would be hard, wouldn't it?
I would think it would be hard. There are some agencies in our state that do something called testing, that will go and check and see if units are leased fairly to everyone. But
they do testing like
there
that.
are some agencies that do that. I'm not all that familiar with the process or how it takes place, but I am aware that there are some. It's a national trend, and that's how many cases of fair housing violations are identified.
That's very interesting. Okay, we'll start taking some calls. There's the number at the bottom of the screen, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We have Carlin on here first. Go right ahead, Carlin.
Very interesting. Okay, we'll start taking some calls.
Turn down your phone, okay? Or turn down your TV.
Hello.
Hi, go right ahead.
Yes, my name is Carla, and I'm on the Section 8 housing program, THDA, and I had to let my mother move in with me because of a disability. She had a illness, and I lived in a one-bedroom, and I'm on THDA Section 8, and they said I would have to get a reasonable accommodation to get a different unit. The doctor requested we get a 3-bedroom because we have to have one room for special medical equipment, and then we have to have a room where she sleeps with the hospital, and then I need a room myself. And they give me the big old runaround, and I don't know what to do.
Have you spoken with someone at THDA?
Ma'am?
Have you spoken with someone at THDA about your reason?
THDA. And last week I received my voucher. I had to move from THDA to MDHA from a one-bedroom to a one-bedroom. I can't do a one-bedroom. I need them to agree what the doctor said I needed and to give me the size unit that I require. It's just a big old runaround.
Okay.
I hate that for you. One of the things that we do at THDA is help with reasonable accommodations for people who need help with their housing, especially people with disabilities, to try to remove, again, the barriers for them. I'm not particularly sure what this person's situation is, but we do have a process for reasonable accommodations, and we do grant them.
She's talking about Section 8.
Right.
Do you all do Section 8?
It's more commonly known as Section 8. We call it the Housing Choice Voucher Program.
Okay. Yes, it is
And-
more commonly known as Section 8.
Right,
Okay,
it's more
Housing
commonly-
Choice Voucher Program.
And what that is it's a rental assistance program for people. They go find housing, and then if they have a voucher, there's a certain percentage of their rent that is paid for. It's a federal program that we help administer.
Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. All right, we're going to take a break. If you want to call in, there's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Any questions about fair housing? Any question you have, give us a call. Take a break. Be back right after this.